Dear friends, this is Dr. Amarjit Kaur, Professor of Accounting and Business Communication at the Department of Management, Gurugram University, Gurugram. This is my privilege that I am here with you to talk on employment communication, resume and CV. So this is the second part of this topic we are going to resume now. In the previous half we have talked about how to prepare, how to plan for employment. In that we discussed one important aspect that how should we write resume or CV. So we discussed various sections of resume and various sections of curriculum vitae, and here we reached to the point to discuss about what should be there in CV or resume, what should not be there. So I am going to discuss about few tips about resume and CV writing before we move to the fourth part of employment communication, right? So important tips from my side. Number one, that we should get the basics right. What is that? So basic rights means make sure there is no mistake in your email ID, your name, your phone number, your state STD code is there, your country code is there. So basics are supposed to be correct. We have found many a times, the curriculum vitae, at the top your phone number is incorrect, your email is incorrect, and then when we send the interview call, people say I didn't receive the interview mail. How come? Because the email ID was incorrect, and it is a reality I have seen in my past experience. So this has happened because the basics were not correct. So get the basics right. Make sure your year of graduation, year of post graduation, your percentage, because that is not mispresentation only, but is actually can be taken as a fraudulent practice or fraudulent misguiding facts. Okay, that is the first tip. The second is you should always tailor your curriculum vitae or resume to the every job you are applying for. So we should always try to tailor it to the role we are applying for. It should not be just a generalized CV used every time for different roles. So make it as habit to modify it as per the job you are applying for. The third tip is that we should be organizing the resume or curriculum vitae in a very, very meticulous order. So that is what is known as presentation. So make sure you present different parts very effectively, with the right heading, for example, skills, languages, awards and honors, which we just discussed. So we should have the right presentation, and the order should be correct. If my job is where the education qualification matter, I may highlight my education. If the job is such where the certification or the skill does matter a lot, I should be highlighting that more than my education. If job is such where experience is of value or the worth, then I should be highlighting that. So your presentation does matter a lot, because person should be able to be interested in reading further after giving a glance to the resume you are submitting. Then we should stick to not more than 2 pages of resume, because most of the jobs are non-academic. In academics we do not have so much number of vacancies than we have the other roles in the economy, right? So other than the medical profession, legal profession or the academic profession, most of the jobs only 1 or 2 page resume is considered to be enough. So we should always use A4 size sheet for printing it, for writing it. Then we should understand the job description before we submit the resume along with the application for a job, because if you will be able to understand the job JD, which we call as JD, job description, only then you will be able to modify the CV you have already prepared. So you can tailor the CV for the job only if you are able to understand the job description very well. So please read JD for twice, thrice before you design or you modify your CV for this for new role, for this job which you are referring at that point of time. The another point is that we should try to make most of the skills which we have, right? So you should have all the skills listed in at one place, and then pick out those skills and put them in the order that the most relevant skill for the job in contact should be at the first level, at the first place in writing, right, the presentation. So make the most of the skills, and of course do not forget to write your language skills, your IT skills. Make sure they all are there. We should make the most of the interests. So if you want to work in a particular sector, on a particular position or a particular role, job profile, so you should be able to express that in your career objective or somewhere, that you are interested for this particular role because you have been exposed in the past. So you are actually combining the experience and the interest together. And the same way, you should be able to make the most of the experience you have. So you don't forget to highlight the experience, and that experience only which is actually required for the current role you are applying for. Because you may have experience, and nowadays people are dynamic. Even somebody sitting in an education institution is exposed to HR role, marketing role. In the private sector, people are academicians are involved in marketing of the program. They are involved in dealing with HR professional. They are involved in finances as well. So if you are exposed to many profiles, you should think which of the experience is most relevant for this particular job I am applying for. So question yourself after reading the JD carefully, and then write the experience part or section of the CV. Then make sure that you use active verbs wherever possible in the CV instead of the passive ones. One should be able to showcase the passion for the role he or she is applying. I am passionate. This should come up. Your CV should speak about, and it should actually be securing you a job call, an interview call, right? Because people, you may have you may be very much interested in something, but if you are not able to exhibit that or provide a passionate picture of that particular interest in your CV, in your resume, then you are going to lose a chance. There's a likelihood that you may not be called up for the interview. Okay, so you should be showing your passion for a particular job or the role which is there in the question through your CV only, through your resume only. And be specific, be impactful in your CV. Be selective about the language you use. Be selective about the words you are putting in your objective statement, in your skills, in your experience, exposures, honors, etc., etc. Sometimes people sound very pricey or proud about that they whatever. You should be proud, but no, you should not be. There's a difference. One is proud of something, and one is very much having this notion that I have achieved it, but presents it in a bad way. I am not using the right word, I know, because I don't want to use that bad language, but ghamand, you know that what I'm trying to refer to. We should avoid that. We should not be using something which shows the arrogant, because you have achieved experience or skills or exposure and now you are sounding arrogant. No, you should be polite, you should be showcasing your skills, but in a specific, impactful, in a kind language. You should be proud of what you have achieved, but not you should be ghamandi about that. Be confident, of course. You should be sounding confident about the role you are applying for. And the last thing is that you should be using keywords which precisely tells about your achievements, your awards, by giving them headings, subheadings, etc., etc. So be careful about using the appropriate keywords, and then before you actually submit it to anybody, you proofread it. So proofreading a CV or resume is as important as writing it is, because we are all bound to make mistakes in the first, second, third draft, and you should read it as many times possible, to you, and then submit it to the prospective employer. These were the important tips for writing a CV or a resume. They are applicable for both, resume as well as CV. Now coming to the fourth part of employment communication, which is reaching out to the prospective employer. So how can you reach out to a future employer? There are different channels you can follow. It depends which all you can or are available to you. If you are a student, then certainly the first thing is the campus placement cell. Most of the education institutions, they have the placement officer, training and placement officer, corporate development cell, campus placement cell. These are the different names we have. So you may submit your resume to the campus placement cell, and they can send it to the prospective employer for you, right? So most of the academic institutions, they advertise the JD they receive, and then they call to submit the application. Along with the application, you need to submit your resume to the placement officer, and then they forward a combined list of students who are interested to work for that role. So this is the first thing, first possibility. Then another is job fairs. So colleges, universities, companies, they actually conduct job fairs, and students can actually participate in job fairs. Even sometimes universities invite alumni also to participate in job fairs, right? So here there's a group of companies who are invited by the placement cell or by a company, by a university. They all come together. They actually have a canopy established. They present the opportunities of growth to the prospective employees, because you are going to be employed, right? So these are the things, and they answer the questions on the spot. They do present the growth opportunities or job profiles. They explain about the job profiles, and this is happening during job fairs. So you can submit your profile, your application along with the your summary resume or the CV to the company in job profile, job fairs. The third thing is, you may reach out to the prospective employer through job portals. So Naukri.com and many more. So we have so many job portals nowadays available. So we can reach out to the future employer through those portals. The fourth way to reach out to the future employer is social sites, social media sites, networking sites. Nowadays we get to see many job openings on LinkedIn. Many companies have actually stopped advertising for jobs in print media, in any other media. They are simply using only one medium, and that is social media through LinkedIn especially, right? Because it's a professional network site. So you can actually be part of those networking. You can open your own account on LinkedIn, on any other networking site, and can come across, you can find out that which all job profiles are available, JDs are available, and you can apply for that. And here's a tip for dealing in such situation. I always recommend my students as well that you should try to reach out to the people in the sector where you want to work in. You prepare your LinkedIn profile and try to connect with the people working in a particular sector or industry you are interested to work in, and those are the people who will be advertising on LinkedIn that these are the job roles available, right? So you will get to know, from the horse's mouth only directly that this job profile is available in that company, and you can apply for. You will not miss a chance. You can actually use it very effectively. And another way to reach out to is that employee referral. If your friend is working in X company, you can request him. That friend can actually give your referral to the manager, HR manager there in his company, his or her company, and you can apply through the referrals. So employee referral is becoming very popular, especially for multinational company. So because even the existing employees who bring referral or who give the referrals, they are awarded nowadays. So if I give, for example, refer 5 people, and after those 5, if 2 are selected, I may be rewarded something in cash, in kind, in some form or the other. So it's a win-win situation. Your friend is getting rewarded for the referral he or she is giving, and you are getting a chance to appear for the job interview through the referral or to apply for a job through this. So these are the different mediums through which one can reach out to the prospective employer. Now the last part of employment communication is that how to prepare for recruitment and selection process. So here again the communication plays a role, right? So the first thing is written aptitude or technical test. So various job profiles have various requirements. Few jobs have only some written test, few jobs have written test as well as aptitude test, and few jobs have technical test. So here you make sure you work on your verbal ability. Verbal ability means your language, right? So are you good in verbal ability to answer in a particular language you are applying for? For example, the technical test is in English for most of the multinational companies. There are tests for languages, R language, Python language. They have been given some situation, some problem, and the candidate has to write the code. So you should be having the ability and to write. So that may go in the programming test, but even for programming you should have good verbal sense. Then comes the numerical ability. Many written tests would assess you for your proficiency in numerical ability. So even you should be preparing for that. That is also communication, that how do you express, how do I express my numerical ability. That is my communication, right? Written communication through the test. Then the logical reasoning, how do you actually make a flow chart of any decision making or any logical reasoning you are drawing. So whatever the reason you make, how do you reach, what steps you follow. So that is also exhibiting your communication skill. You may highlight, you may use the capital letter, you may use underline. So what is that? So your logical reasoning is also involving the communication skill as well. Logical reasoning is a different skill, of course, but how do you reason and you express, that is your logical reasoning, and the communication is playing a role here. Then programming test. Of course, the programming is about the coding, the languages, the technical, this is all about the technical knowledge you have. You should be preparing for that as well, and you should be knowing exactly how to express, in written format, how different programs are written. So if the job profile is that which requires the programming test, you should be preparing for that. and should be knowing the right business communication in that. And the technical knowledge, if the test is about the technical knowledge, then again every technical field has its specific language, specific vocabulary. For example, a programmer has a different language, then an IT expert has a different language. So we should be knowing the exact vocabulary being used for that technical knowledge, whichever we are testing for, right? And we should be using the technical language only. So this is the fifth part, and here we discussed only the aptitude test, written test or technical test. Aptitude test is separate, where your aptitude is assessed for different aspects. Then comes in, your job may require requires you to appear for psychometric test. It assesses the capabilities of a person from various perspectives, how resilient one is, or how good he or she would prove as a team leader, as a team worker, how much cohesive one is expected, how much discipline one is expected. So we have psychometric testing. Does this marketing area is of interest to him or not? He just applying for by compulsion. Does this HR role he is applying for of interest to him or not? So we have so many different perspectives of psychometric testing. So you should be preparing for that. Group discussion is another thing. So group discussion and PI are the most common for management profiles, right? For any executive profile. So group discussion, what is it? Group discussion is where you are given a topic and you are made sit in a round format, and then all the participants in the group are asked to give talk about the topic, discuss about the topic, and people have to discuss. So here the employer is silently, the HR guy who comes for recruitment, he or she is silently observing your responses, your logical reasoning, your presentation, your language, your body language, everything, right? So we will be talking about group discussion and personal interviews in detail in a separate session, but here I am just giving you a gist what it is. So you should be preparing for group discussion, and how to prepare, what all points we should be considering for group discussion, I will be talking in detail. And the last, as I said, is personal interview. Personal interview is also a business communication, the part of employment communication, right, in business communication. So how, because personal interview means I am talking to somebody as a prospective employee, I am talking to the employer, any official of the employer. It could be HR head first, technical head first, then followed by the HR team, followed by the senior management or leadership team. It all depends what kind of job you have applied. Even this personal interview could be the telephonic one, could be one-on-one, could be panel interview, could be group interview, could be behavioral interview, right? The telephonic interview is one, you are interviewed on a telephone call. Nowadays we have Zoom interviews as well. So you are interviewed on a Zoom meeting, on a Google Meet. So it's basically virtually. So telephonic or virtual on a Zoom or Google Meet, that is one possibility, but it is actually the communication, the business communication only pertaining to employment. So that's why we call it as employment communication, and you should be preparing for the interview with few questions in your mind. You should be thinking in advance, what kind of job I have applied for, what are the probable questions which will be asked, right? So you should be preparing your answers with anticipating these are the possible questions for the job I have applied for, and should be preparing most of the interviews will begin with that tells something about you. You should be having how to a clarity that how should I use those 30 seconds to introduce myself. You have to make best of those 30 seconds. Elevator pitch is the best way. You should be practicing your elevator pitch on daily basis before you appear for an interview. This could be one-on-one interview where you are just being interviewed by one person, one leader, one technical guy, one HR guy, or a complete panel comprising 2, 3, 4, 5 people may interview you. It will all depend on the kind of job, the seriousness of the job, the importance of the job, or the practice in that sector, right? There's likelihood that prospective employees are interviewed in a group. They are questioned and to see who is going to come forward to answer something, who is the first one, because the job is such we want to see only the initiatives, who is the initiator, who is careful, who speaks well, who speaks less, who speaks how. Or the time is short, it could be also a possibility. And the last is that we do have interviews where a psychologist is sitting and observing your behavior other than what anybody is questioning. Your behavior is also observed. So these are the type of interviews and is actually the part of employment communication. You should be preparing for prospective questions, preempted questions, and should be answering accordingly as per the requirement of the job. So with this I would like to wind up now. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you.